Walter Cagle Jr. Federal Judge Robert Varner has again ordered the release of prisoners from the overcrowded Montgomery County Jail. This time, 37 men have walked out of the courthouse. Lisa Nielsen is at the courthouse right now for this live report on the latest release. Lisa?
The order to release the inmates follows what Judge Varner calls continued overcrowding of the county jail. One by one, sheriff's deputies released the 37, 10 who are awaiting sentencing and must return, and 27 whose sentences are now over. The order calls the detention of 150 prisoners in a 120-capacity jail cruel and unusual punishment. And it says the constitutional deprivations of the magnitude threatened here simply cannot be countenanced. Varner points out that state and county law officials must incarcerate offenders but don't have the facilities to handle them. And since the judge says he can't order the county commission to build a new jail, he has to release some prisoners. This is the third time Judge Varner has released county inmates. And court-appointed attorney Richard Shinbaum says many of the first 37 are now back in jail. He repeated his belief that conversion of the county law library to jail space is a waste of money because Shinbaum says that jail will only house 20 more inmates. But this time Shinbaum blames the overcrowding on the state. He says there are 35 state prisoners in the county jail and the state hasn't picked up any of its prisoners in over 4 weeks. What's more, he says Judge Varner gave the state 4 days to remove some of its inmates before issuing the release order. Bob?
Lisa, the question that comes to mind, is this something we're going to see more of? Is this trend setting?
Shinbaum seems to think that it is. He says that this shows that Judge Varner means business and that he's not going to put up with overcrowding and that he may even have to begin releasing state prisoners if more facilities aren't built. And Shinbaum says that the facilities must be started by October.
Thank you very much. Lisa Nielsen live at the county courthouse with a release of 37 more prisoners. In an attempt to save...
They wear the orange and black of Oklahoma State University, the 1980 NCAA golf champions. 19-year-old Talbert Griffin of Montgomery plays number 7 for the Cowboys. 20-year-old Kirk Maynard of Dell City, Oklahoma plays number 6. Both will be sophomores next year at OSU and already looking forward to defending the collegiate golf title.
We have a good shot at the next 3 years I'm there too, hopefully.
You just got back from out there. Was the coach real happy about it?
Oh yeah, he's every year. He doesn't care if he loses every tournament as long as he wins that one. That's the high point of every year. He's shooting for it, the NCAA.
Kirk, you're a long ways from home.
Yeah, I came down here to play in the Southeastern Amateur, and Talbert wanted me to play in this tournament with him, so I thought I'd come down and play in this. Having a good time.
You guys played some big competition this year. What are some of the teams that you play?
Oh, well, we play against Houston and Brigham Young and Texas. You know, we play against all the good teams in just about every tournament we play in.
Maynard enters tomorrow's MCC Invitational with an impressive record, having averaged a mere 72 strokes per round in every tournament he competed in at Oklahoma State, and a second-place finish to his credit in the Oklahoma State Amateur Tournament this past June. Griffin has to be considered a favorite to win on Sunday. Talbert has already won the Rolling Hills Invitational this summer and also holds the Southern Junior and Future Legends titles from last year. Griffin has an added incentive to win. He grew up on the Montgomery Country Club course and knows the layout as well as anyone. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports. The girls have been spending all week learning how to perform new cheers, pom-pom routines, chants, pyramids, and learning how to incorporate tumbling into their cheerleading programs. Several area cheerleading squads are participating, including girls from Catholic High School, Trinity, Wetumpka, Tallahassee, Prattville, and Otagoville. Clinic Director Susan Snyder handpicked some of the best cheerleaders around to assist with the instruction.
I sent a letter to my staff 3 weeks ahead of time asking them to please bring with them cheers and chants to use at the clinic. We met 2 days ahead of time, and we sat down and took our ideas and incorporated them and came up with 11 good cheers and about 7 or 8 good chants and double stunts and things like that, which we've taught to the girls this week.
I guess if you're teaching them, you have to be pretty good yourselves, don't you?
Well, we're all college cheerleaders, either former or present right now.
For those of you who haven't kept up with the latest cheers, take a look at the Go Get 'em. Or how about the We Got the Moves? No doubt television has had an impact on cheerleading. Here's the Mr. Bill cheer. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
The increasing pressures of the different court orders that demand that the state take state inmates out of county jails, Montgomery, Houston, Tuscaloosa, several others. For example, in Jefferson County, he has to have all of the state inmates out of there by Monday. Well, the courts have been giving extensions to these orders for some time now, as you know, and they finally just gave out of patience, and they said, you're going to have to do it. So Mr. Britton, for several weeks, had been looking at this as an alternative and to see if it would work and how much it would help. And finally, they made the decision Friday to go ahead.
At today's meeting, subjects discussed included transportation and management of hazardous waste and water quality in the state. Present were both private citizens and industrial representatives. The meeting, spearheaded by the Alabama Environmental Quality Association, was held in conjunction with the State Department of Public Health and the Environmental Protection Agency.
That's what we're working to do, to get you and I and the average Joe on the street to feel that their concerns are just as important as anyone else's, and frankly, many times are much more effectively put in just layman's terms. So we're trying to encourage people to, by golly, get out and go to meetings and let the federal and state regulatory agencies know what their concerns and issues are. This is truly government of the people and by the people and for the people when that happens.
Mrs. McKenna says Alabama's newly passed Hazardous Waste Act is in desperate need of funding.
Acts are no good unless they're funded, and it is a critical issue.
Alabama is the first state to utilize public meetings in order to obtain citizen priorities and ideas concerning environmental management. 4 other meetings are scheduled in Dothan, Mobile, Huntsville, and Birmingham. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
We have, in the last couple of days, developed some additional information that we feel should be included in Mr. Mayberry's pre-sentence investigation report. And we're asking for the continuance to have time to evaluate this and put it in the report.
Would it alter your original recommendation?
I'm not sure at this time. I've just had a chance to look at it, and I really don't know the full nature of it, so I really can't say that.
The Commission adopted a resolution saying it's the statutory responsibility of the Commission to review new teaching programs, and it will continue to exercise that duty. Executive Director John Porter offered the resolution in response to a July 8th meeting of the State Board of Education. At that meeting, the board turned aside a proposed joint resolution after Governor Fob James said there wasn't a need for the board and the Commission to act on new teaching programs. The Commission, after approving a proposal for a Bachelor of Science in Nurse Anesthesia at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, denied a proposal by Auburn University at Montgomery. It would have set up a Bachelor of Science in Special Education and B certification in speech pathology. Despite AUM's claim the proposal did not constitute a new program, the Commission says the 5 existing programs should be expanded to meet any additional requirements. The The school was instructed to submit another proposal in a year. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
This past Wednesday, the demand for electricity in the Alabama Power Service area reached almost 7 million kilowatts in one day, with Thursday's demand running a close second. Officials with Alabama Power say that figure is 1.4% above the previous record in 1978. Power company spokesman Chris Conway says the demand could be even higher next week. He says the company should be able to handle the increased demand provided there are no unexpected outages of generating plants. Currently, all the plants are operational and the company has a 16% general reserve capacity. Conway says if the entire supply is depleted, the company can buy electricity from its parent firm, the Southern Company. Because of this increased demand, consumers can look forward to slightly higher electric bills. But Conway says this can be offset through conservation methods, such as keeping curtains and blinds closed and using electrical appliances during cooler times of the day. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
U.S. District Judge Robert Varner called for the release of county inmates because he said continued overcrowding of the jail violates their constitutional rights. Montgomery County Commission Chairman Mac McKinney today responded, saying that when someone goes to jail, he's not supposed to have any constitutional rights. He says criminals shouldn't be released just because they are inconvenienced. But McKinney says he's been pushing for a new jail and courthouse facility for 3 years, and that courthouse politics have prevented money from going to the project. He also points out that the conversion of the law library into jail space for 20 inmates was never meant to be a permanent solution. But the commission chairman says county politicians have killed his spirit for trying to build a new jail. McKinney says he's tired of struggling with the jail problem. He says since he's been in office, he's helped build the county treasury to a surplus of $8 million, but when he's tried to transfer some of that money into a building fund, he says the other commissioners have vetoed the idea. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News at the county courthouse.
Herb Forsythe, Roland Romine, and Charlie Hayes.
I will have my priorities set correctly in that I will consider these two things the most important. I feel that we are in times of great peril. We must correct that. We can correct it. And these two items must go hand in hand.
America's defense posture at this time is slipping. Our national defense apparatus is in sore need of repair. I believe the United States must be second to none in military strength.
And Wayne Bradshaw. And I believe that done this time we will later. We'll present later.
I feel that Donald Stewart, whose place I seek, is out of step with the thinking of the people of Alabama. And I think that if he's given a full 6-year term, he'll be completely out of ranks with the people of Alabama.
Indicted last month after a lengthy investigation by the FBI and the Army's Criminal Investigation Division. They're charged with conspiring to defraud the government, filing false claims, and embezzlement of property. Entering not guilty pleas to those charges were Charles Cox, currently employed with the Corps' Geology Section in Mobile, Paul Morrell and John Sanford, both former employees of the Corps' local office, and local Montgomery businessman Ray Beasley, co-owner and president of Capital City Supply Company and Capital City Drilling Company. Trial for the four has been set for August 27th. From the federal courthouse, Sidney Kohara, WSFA TV News.
Of course, we don't know what the courts is going to do. It may be ruled unconstitutional. We don't ever know, but as long as in it. The last one which occurred yesterday on Dalray Road, some alert citizens got a tag number and gave us, and then the alert police officers, which were close by, apprehended the subjects within minutes.
Are most of these people juveniles? Is that just something that's happening, or just a rash of purse snatching?
Well, all 5 of these was one 18-year-old and 2 17-year-olds involved.
What would you attribute to the rash of purse snatching that's been going on?
Well, these are the only 5 we've had within the past 2 months, and these 3 subjects were involved just out looking for a little free cash money is what they were after.
Those two right there. Pilot, man your plane. Yeah. Let him get in, did you? Hey! Here we go!
Where's the captain and the major? I may have to get them.
I feel I'm very satisfied with the Air Force Academy right now because I go out there, do a career, and come out as a second lieutenant, plus playing sports for 5 years. I can't beat that and getting paid, which ain't bad at all.
You played a lot of sports at Central. What kind of things you going to be doing up there? What are they expecting out of you?
Well, in the football, they want me to run and pass a lot on sprint outs. They think I got a good arm for the sprint out passes. And the basketball coach, he wants me to go out to play basketball because they ain't got very big guards. They want me to go in the guard over there. But it's going to be tough academic and athletic-wise at the same time, so I'll probably try to stick to my first year of football.
Should we hear it sizzle? It's not doing anything, Mr. Dean. What does that mean?
Takes a little time. Temperature is only 108 degrees now, according to the temperature across the street.
Okay, how much time do we have to give it?
Probably take about 5 minutes. Yes, it didn't cook in 5 minutes, but if you'll notice, it's cooked out where it's real thin, and you can see the bubbles around the side. It's very definitely cooking.
According to the information we received, a Willie George McCall was driving in Lowndes County 37 headed toward Fort Deposit. He was about to make a left turn. As he started making that left turn, a car coming faster behind him, driven by Samuel Lee McMeans. Pulling went around him. He stopped still, let the car go around him. As he went around him, he evidently lost control of his car. And there was a barbecue going on close to the road where some kids were standing. And he struck 3 of the kids as he was passing. He was cooking the fish in.
State School Superintendent Wayne Teague says most schools are coping with the loss of state funds by putting off maintenance and building projects. But he says that practice will probably hurt schools in the long run.
That's the real problem, because you delay repairing a roof this year because of lack of funds, it'll cause greater problems another year because of the lack of repair. And I don't have to alarm anyone, I think, by saying that to fail to repair a school bus is real bad business. So the delay in those things are compounded year after year. And next year will be our third consecutive year of proration.
If proration continues next year, Bullock County School Superintendent Conrad Newman says he'll almost certainly have to borrow funds to get through the 1980-81 school year. He says Bullock County schools have already reduced expenditures for maintenance, equipment, and supplies, and he thinks they'll have to stop filling positions when people leave. Montgomery County schools are in better financial shape than many other school districts, but Finance Officer Joe Piazza says proration is eating into funds set aside for capital outlays. He says by the end of next year, Montgomery County may have to borrow funds to meet expenses. That situation will be on the minds of the budget makers as they plan the county's finances for next year. Teague will meet with school superintendents from across the state next week. He says he'll encourage them to plan their budgets around only 90% of allocated state funds. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Back during the session, I was
Hey, you guys, I believe you drew blood on that one.
Okay. Miller?
Congratulations, Captain. That's real fun. Okay.
Thank you. Next one will be Sergeant Larry Wright, being promoted to lieutenant.
Congratulations, Judge. We get to see you on these little while. It's good to have something together.
Then we have Sergeant Alan Wright.
There has to be a fair display of discipline. We require that able-bodied, healthy prisoners work. Now, when they don't or won't, it is necessary to take disciplinary action then, and they are put into reasonable confinement, which is, I think it's 10 by 20 or 10 by 30. Certainly they eat breakfast before they go over there. They're given water and food, but that's a discipline that is necessary. It's a discipline that's been practiced by the United States Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps down through the years. It's reasonable, and it's absolutely necessary.
Former Governor George Wallace is due back in Montgomery after receiving treatment with a controversial drug DSMO at the Portland, Oregon hospital. Sydney Kohara has been waiting for the governor's arrival at Epps Field and has this live report. Sydney?
I'm live out at Epps Airfield where we're waiting for Governor Wallace's plane. It should be coming in within the hour. Governor Wallace was released today from the University of Oregon Health Sciences Center in Portland, where he's been undergoing treatment with the drug DMSO for the past 16 days. It's for the alleviation of chronic pain that is associated with paralysis. Wallace entered the hospital on June 28th and began receiving the drug in combination with medication and heat therapy just on the 1st of July. I have talked to his son, George Jr., who said he's optimistic that his father is coming home, a new man, and he's happy to get back to work.
Well, Sydney, you've also been talking with Elvin Stanton, who's the former governor's aide. What kind of reaction has Mr. Stanton had to the treatments and Governor Wallace's arrival back home?
From what I've heard, Bob, Elvin Stanton says that they're all optimistic. Governor Wallace, every time he called home or called George or Mr. Stanton, they said that he sounded a lot happier. He was glad he went over there. When he comes back, he's just happy to get back to work, and he just hopes everything turns out. He is going to try to continue treatment with the drug.
Fine, Sidney. Thanks. We look forward to your report once the governor gets back in Alabama again. Last fall, editorial director Bobby.
Remember the long lines you had to wait in to get gas just a few months ago? When you had to fill your tank on Fridays because you couldn't find a gas station open on the weekends? We found many service stations open this weekend, and stations that used to sell their daily allotments by noon are staying open until 8 at night. Service station employees say not only can they get all the gas they want, but companies are lowering their prices in order to get more business. Some service station operators report they're waging small price wars to improve business, and they say customers think the present availability shows the gas shortage is a hoax. But Alabama Petroleum Council spokesman Tom Dart says the reason for the surplus is decreased consumption. He says drivers are becoming used to conserving gasoline, and they're also driving smaller cars. On top of that, Dart says unemployment and a slow economy mean people are cutting back on all expenses, including gas. Dart says it's good that drivers are economizing even when supplies are up, because he says anything people conserve now will help later when there could be interruptions in the supply. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
In an effort to help keep health care costs down, the government is urging doctors and pharmacists to begin prescribing and dispensing more generic drugs. The term generic refers simply to the drug's chemical name rather than a brand name. In most cases, the generic drug is a lot less expensive than the brand name, but some doctors do not like generics. In our last report, Montgomery physician Dr. Jim Poteet said he did not advocate the use of generic drugs, mainly because he said they are not dependable.
Medication, the importance of it is just too important a thing to buy some second-rate foreign imported drugs that don't do any good.
We also heard from a pharmacist.
Some of the generic drugs do not dissolve in the body as they should.
While some doctors and pharmacists are in opposition to generic drugs, there are many who strongly favor their use. We contacted several Montgomery physicians by phone. Many of them told us that they believe generic drugs are a good way to help keep medical costs down, but none were interested in doing a television interview. However, we were able to get an interview with a pharmacist.
I think generic prescribing can be a great benefit to the patients because it allows the pharmacist to choose a therapeutically equivalent brand and possibly save a lot of money.
Paul Tibbetts is director of pharmacy at Baptist Medical Center. He says generic drugs have been used at the center for years in providing the best possible medical care. He says the price of brand name drugs may vary as much as 200% as compared to their generic counterpart, but the medical benefit is the same.
With all of the drug companies and hundreds of thousands of drugs, as a pharmacist, how do you determine which is a good generic and a bad generic drug?
Well, with most drugs, you can get what they call bioavailability data. In other words, how much of the drug is actually absorbed and utilized. So I think it's a pharmacist's professional responsibility to look into that.
It says if physicians and pharmacists will work closely together on the generic drug issue, patients could save a significant amount of money on prescription medications. While only 12% of the prescriptions written in the U.S. currently use the generic names for drugs rather than the brand names, Tibbetts says he believes there will be a significantly larger number of generic drug prescriptions written in the near future in an effort to help keep medical care within the reach of the average citizen. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
We don't know at this time whether we have a broken main or not, and we can't determine that until we get enough water back in the reservoir to take some pressure readings to see if we have. Probably the hot, dry weather has caused it more than anything else. People have used more water than our pumping capacity allows for them to use, and our reservoir ran dry.
Okay, so is it possible that it's not a leak and that people have just used it all, or?
very possible with the weather that we're having at the present time and people watering their yards and everything. We suspect that we have a leak because we lost water so quickly.
Hudson, Herb Forsyth, Roland Romine, and Charlie Hayes. There's a new complex out here, and it's going indoor.
The American Legion in 1918 was created of a sole purpose of caring for those veterans, the widow and the orphan of those veterans who were not able to care for themselves. We are concerned about assuring that we have adequate hospital care for the living veteran, the veterans of foreign wars, and for veterans who went overseas. The American Legion are for the veteran who answered the call when the country called him, regardless of what his job was or where they told him to serve.
So anybody who
Ray Bass of the engineering and planning firm of Centel, Morin & Bass of Montgomery says the future production of synthetic fuels in Alabama is going to be gigantic. Already his firm is involved in the planning, development, and design of an alcohol fuel plant to be built by the Alisol Company in Moundville, Alabama. Bass says upon completion the facility will produce an estimated 6 million gallons of alcohol per year to be used in the production of synthetic fuels.
I think the country, by the action of Congress recently to appropriate $88 billion for the development of alcohol fuels or synthetic fuels, is very significant. It's a significant commitment in the fact that it's much greater than former commitments we've made, such as the development of the interstate system or sending a man to the moon. I feel that this is the fuel that we'll be using in the future, in the immediate future. I think that Alabama has a potential that's greater than most states in the fact that we have the ability to produce agricultural products that can be used for the production of alcohol and other synthetic fuels.
Bass says the plant will be built with a loan from the Farmers Home Administration, with construction to start upon loan approval. Bass says gasohol consisting of 90% gasoline and 10% alcohol will be produced first, with the probability of a conversion to the production of 100% synthetic fuels in the near future. In any event, Bass says synthetic fuels will be the answer to solving a large percentage of our energy needs for years to come, once full-scale production begins. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
Dr. Ham Green proved two things today, starting with birdies at number 8 and here at number 9. He proved a 38-year-old physician, with all the demands of his job, can still be competitive in the game of amateur golf. And when young David Hancock finally succumbed to the pressure of leading this prestigious tournament from the opening round by double bogeying the 15th, Dr. Green proved to the membership of the Montgomery Country Club that one of their own could win this fabled invitational. None had since Claude Moody did it in 1962. But from that short putt at 15 until this par-saving championship one at the final hole, you wouldn't believe some of the saving shots he made to hold his one-stroke lead.
Hemp, you should write a book about the last 3 holes. There was some great escapes there, weren't there?
Well, I certainly feel like I aged about 10 years playing the last 3 holes.
Got it. 16, when you hit the ball behind the tree, what, you had 2 or 3 ways to hit the ball and decided, what, the wrong way? Or what?
Well, I think I hit the right shot, and I got an awfully bad break up around the green. The ball hit the top of the trees, they tell me, and had it missed the trees, was on the green, and it kicked dead behind the tree and was stymied.
Then you were just trying to get a shot, huh?
Yeah, just trying to make 5, and was fortunate enough to make a relatively hard putt for a bogey there.
Then on the next hole, you pull the ball
and got the mirror image. I got a great break then. Instead of having no shot, I ended up with a shot, and I was fortunate enough to make birdie there. and then I stood on 18T and said, hit it in the fairway and knocked it 30 yards in the right rough.
It looked like there you were playing a safe shot. You were just trying to get the ball up in front of the green. Were you trying to do that?
I knew the pin was on the back right, and I wanted to leave the ball left of the bunker because I knew I had a lot of room to work with. And the second shot was pretty much as I'd hoped. If I had been able to cut it a good bit, I was trying to either hit straight or cut it. If it cuts, I get up closer to the green, but I figured the way I lose the golf tournament is if I flirt with the trees on the right side, then I go for 6 or 7 like I think Billy Hamilton did playing with us.
And then the third shot, you could not see the pin, but you hit a heck of a shot.
Yeah, it was a lot easier looking golf shot, I think, than it really was. I had plenty of room. I had a fluffy line. I just took a pitching wedge and just tried to carry it up in the middle of the green and let it roll up towards the hole.
And you probably had that putt many times.
Well, I don't think I've ever had it when my mouth was quite as dry as that time. So.
Hey, you struck a blow for the 30-year-olds running. You beat all these young guys, these young backs out here.
Yeah, it's right after my midlife crisis here to win a golf tournament. This has been it's a big thrill. It was 20 years ago that I won it the last time. So it's about every 2 decades I get tough.
They tell me, though, you work hard. You've been out here a lot practicing early in the day before you go to your practice.
Right. I've tried. This is a culmination, basically, of a dream I had, I guess, about 10 years ago. I said I wanted to know if I could work, and work long, hard hours and still be competitive in amateur golf, and this is a tremendous thrill for me. It really is.
It is. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It was just before 6:30 when the jet-carrying Governor Wallace touched down on his home soil. Wallace had been released earlier in the day from the University of Oregon Health Sciences Center, where he'd been hospitalized since June 28. Some well-wishers, as well as the governor's son, George Jr., were on hand to greet the governor's arrival. While in the Portland hospital, Wallace received the drug DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, for alleviation of chronic pain that's associated with paralysis. While the medication is approved by the Food and Drug Administration, it's legal only in 2 states, Oregon and Florida. Governor Wallace says the trip was worthwhile.
I feel good. Of course, as Dr. Jacobs says out in Portland at the Medical Center at Oregon University, that it's too early to tell. But I took 2 weeks of the treatment, and as a consequence, I feel that I'm improved, but at the same time, as Dr. Jacobs says, we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to take further treatment here in Alabama, here in Montgomery.
Wallace says his coming home has helped him tremendously, and he's anxious to get back to work in his office. And he says he's feeling well enough to return to work sometime Tuesday morning. Sydney Kohara, WSFA TV News.
The heat contributed to another busy day for hospital emergency rooms, especially in Montgomery. Over the weekend, approximately 12 people were admitted to city hospitals in critical condition with heat stroke. Emergency room physicians at Baptist Medical Center say there were 2 heat-related deaths at the hospital last Friday. Officials at St. Margaret's Hospital say 1 person died from heat-related symptoms Sunday. The hospital treated 8 people Sunday for heat exhaustion. And at St. Margaret's, an elderly woman died early today, the latest heat-related casualty. Officials say the elderly are the ones primarily affected by the heat. Most of them have existing health conditions. There have been heat-related deaths reported in numerous Alabama cities, including Birmingham, Mobile, Pritchard, Columbiana, Tuscumbia, Florence, and Anniston. Authorities in Birmingham have found the bodies of 5 elderly people in their closed, non-air-conditioned homes in the city's north side. In Montgomery at 2:45 today, a thermometer near Jackson's Hospital registered 110 and 111 degrees. At Washington and Ripley in downtown Montgomery, the temperature read 100. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
The ground is dry and parched, and the corn in this field is wilting fast. It was planted 3 months ago, and during that time it's only had rain on it twice. The field belongs to Montgomery County farmer Davis Henry, who says most of his 140 acres are in bad shape.
This year we started out with it too wet. We were late planting it. We got a lot of late corn, and the rain didn't come at the right time. If we don't get some rain the next week, we'll really be hurting on the majority of our corn.
Henry says even if it should rain within the next few days, his corn yield will still be low.
Well, I'd say right now, if we get some rain, it'll be cut about 40%. If we don't get some rain, it'll be cut better than 50%.
County Agent Bobby Hanks says the soybean crop hasn't yet been greatly affected by the drought.
The younger planted beans are suffering quite a bit because they don't have a root system for them yet. Some of the older beans are beginning to suffer, but if we get some rain within the next week to 10 days, I think the soybean crop will come along real well.
While farmers are hoping and praying for rain, as you heard, weather forecasters aren't predicting any for the next several days. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
The witnesses at the hearing included representatives of about 8 radio and TV stations in Montgomery. They were subpoenaed and told to bring copies of news stories and tapes regarding Jerome Turner from May 8th to the present, including all comments by public officials pertaining to the case. Radio station WHHY filed a motion to quash the subpoena, saying it was unreasonably broad and oppressive, and that it was asking too much to expect radio station employees to search for every piece of information broadcast about Turner. The judge ruled that the radio station should present its files for the lawyers to search through if necessary. Judge Thomas closed the courtroom and excluded the witnesses so they couldn't hear each other's testimony. He also ordered them not to report on what was said in the hearing, saying further publicity could violate the firefighters' rights to